If you want to increase your speed, power, and explosiveness, then you need to be using this training method I use on my athletes to do this and this. This training method I will teach you is what I use in the Speed Academy, and I call it the elastic-based training system. And in this video, I'm going to break down how to use the elastic-based training system to run faster, what this training method is, and the 6 fundamentals you need to get more explosive speed. Did you know there's a statistic that shows that most Division I track and field athletes run faster times in high school than they do in college? I bet you're wondering, why is that? The number one superpower that all elite athletes have is their stretch shortening cycle. And when you make this a priority in your training, you will become an elastic dominant athlete. Remember this term for later. And the problem is that most Division I coaches have a track coach and a weight room coach. Then the strength and conditioning coach primarily job is to get these elite athletes who already run 10.5 and 10.2 to get stronger in the weight room. It's common to see a 10.2 sprinter who is skinny, elastic, and glute dominant, but is weak in the squat, the trap bar deadlift, and your average clean variations. And maybe they've been running 10.2 all year, and the easy answer is to just get them stronger in the Olympic lifts and in their squat, and they'll end up running faster, right? When you want to get faster, like I said earlier, you need to be an elastic dominant athlete, which means the ground contact times are going to be under 0.2 seconds. The peak forces you hit while sprinting are going to be higher than anything you can achieve in the weight room. And the average athlete who's elite and elastic dominant is going to be between 8 to 12% body fat. Then the levers elastic dominant athletes use are class 2 and class 3. If they use class 1 levers, which are muscle dominant in nature, they would start overstriding and muscling through every movement, which in totality will be changing the firing patterns they're using while sprinting. This will make you a slow, muscle dominant athlete, not an elastic dominant athlete. So what's happening in these Division I programs is that these strength and conditioning coaches are taking these athletes in who are already elastic driven, getting them as strong as possible, and changing the muscle firing patterns. And over time, they're going to lose their superpower and just get slower. In athletics, we do not want to eliminate an athlete's weakness in their game. We want to amplify their strength so they are master of one and not average at all. And this type of training I'm referring to is called elastic-based training, where we're going to get you stronger the right way that transfers over to elastic dominant sports like sprinting and jumping. Quick disclaimer, if you're an athlete who needs strength in your sport, then take this video with a grain of salt. Every athlete needs different demands depending on the sport and the position. But if you're in a sport that is elastic dominant like track and field or basketball, then this video is perfect for you. If you're a football player, then you need more strength work because every step you take, you're going to be getting pushed into the ground and pushed off balance. But if you're a basketball player, the strength demands of the sport are not the same. And people are going to try to simplify and just say, just squat more weight, bro. None of this actually matters. And they are simply false. This video is 100% for raw speed and vertical jump gains, not taking into account sport-specific needs. Now onto the elastic-based training method. I'm going to give you the 6 fundamental rules of how to train like an elastic dominant athlete, starting with rule number 1. The 80-20 rule. The goal for increasing speed is to do fast stuff. In the research, it shows that velocity-specific exercises have the highest transfer over to your sprint speed, which means to get faster, we need to be doing sprints that are 97% output and intent, and we need to be doing fast ground contact plyometrics 80% of our training. So your first question is, where does strength fit in the other 20% of your training? And this means 80-20 in terms of volume. So let's use an example. Let's say you have 3 to 4 days to train and you have a total of 100 reps that you can do in terms of anything you choose. That means 80 of your reps need to be sprinting and plyometrics, and 20 of reps can go to strength dominant stuff like a deep squat or a hinge. This stuff can get very complicated to calculate because sprinting is not as simple as how many reps did you do or how many reps you do on a squat. It actually is pretty complicated. So you're going to have to take some time to really figure out the numbers of this. If you want a free speed workout to see what this looks like, join the Speed Academy Discord for free. But I say for a general number, look at the amount of sets you're doing for sprinting and plyometrics, including your warm-up, and then add that to your total amount of sets. Then make 20% of that number of sets for lifting. And if you're an advanced athlete, this should be pretty simple to figure out in terms of reps and sets. Pretty much if you have 20 reps to allocate, then you're going to be doing 80% plyometrics and 20% strength training. And my most simple version is to lift 2 to 3 times per week, 2 to 3 sets per 1 to 3 exercises. And usually you're going to split that up from 1 squat, 1 hinge, and 1 calf raise variation. Then you don't want to go above 12 reps for most athletes. If the goal is strength and power, then we're going to stick between 3 to 6 reps. But once you start training with this rule, you realize that something still isn't working until you get a high score in this single test. Rule number 2, if your RSI is low, then you will be slow. Research shows that your RSI score needs to be 2.5 or higher so you can handle high intensity plyometrics and so your ground contact times can be fast enough for good sprint times. We train this by doing extensive plyometrics daily, sprinting 2 times per week minimum, and making sure the intensity of the plyometric is at our level where we're either trying to jump high or get off the ground fast, mainly coming from the ankle. Like a single leg hop, for example, if you want to be an elastic dominant athlete, then you need to be great at this plyometric exercise. But listen, even if your RSI score is strong and you have strong ankles, you still can't be fast and explosive if you have this one issue. Rule number 3, fat don't fly. Research shows that for every 2 to 4 pounds of body fat, not water weight, your times in the 40 yard will slow down by 0.1 to 0.3 seconds. This is massive. The goal for any athlete who wants to be fast is to be between 10 to 12% body fat. An easy way to do this is search up your maintenance calories from a calculator online. It's not gonna be 100% accurate. And then once you figure out around what your maintenance calories is, cut those calories back by 300 to 500 calories per day. And once you figure out your calorie goal, then you need to be strength training and eating high protein. If you realize your body fat is a little bit higher than you want to be and you have fat to lose, then you need to be making sure that you're eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight or as little as 0.65 grams of protein per pound of body weight. People will debate this all day, but I think the most important thing is that you're trying to eat as much protein as possible. This is one of the biggest keys to help me go from 194 pounds running 5.2 in the 40 yard to 184 pounds running 4.5 in the 40 yard. In 9 weeks. Now, once you lose the body fat that you need to become a better athlete, if you're still making this one mistake, then all the hard work you put in will mean nothing. Rule number 4, become a master of one, not average at all. Think of 2 athletes. Athlete A wants to get faster, but he's weak, and athlete B wants to get faster, but he's very weak. Athlete A does speed and strength training, but he chases strength numbers. So he pushes his deep squat all the way to 400 pounds plus. Even though he has perfect technique, he is now the strongest in his school. While athlete B slowly progressive overloads his lifting while making his sprint training the primary goal and his strength training a supplement to his goal. Most athletes, when they feel slow and unathletic, the first thing they go to is trying to eliminate all their weaknesses. But the issue is we want to become as strong as possible in one trait, and that is elasticity. And this point will lead me to probably the hottest take I will put on my YouTube channel, is that we need to be doing extensive plyometrics daily. When you were a kid, someone probably told you if you want to dunk, you need to do 1,000 jump ropes and 1,000 calf raises every single day. While the specific number isn't true, there is a lot of truth in the fact that you need elastic contacts daily to become an elastic driven athlete. But the issue and the number one mistake most athletes make is that these need to be low intensity contacts, and if you make them high intensity, you're going to tear your tendon or just flat out get injured. The goal is to expose the tendons to elastic movements daily, not to inflame the tendons and get overuse injuries. My favorite example is I helped this athlete go from this to this, and all we had him do was do 3 to 5 minutes of extensive skips and extensive jumps for his warm-up, and then he followed the Speed Academy program to keep progressing every single month. But if you're an elastic athlete and you still don't master this one trait, then you might be leaving some gains on the table. Rule number 5. Relative strength is queen, relative power is king. Our goal is to improve relative strength, but not at the expense of relative power. So if you want to increase your strength that has more transfer to speed, then we need to keep our lifts focused on power development, which means the concentric portion of any lift we do should be 0.6 seconds or 0.8 meters per second if you have a velocity tracker. Then our lifts need to be mainly posterior chain dominant, which means glute dominant in nature, because this is going to have the highest transfer to speed. The best variations are going to be the rear foot elevated split squat, a trap bar deadlift with high handles, or even a hamstring curl. Then lifting should be for low reps and low to medium sets. A question I have for you is, what is the difference between 3 times 12 and 12 times 3? The volume is the exact same in terms of total reps, but the stimulus you can drive from 12 times 3 is much more power oriented, especially if you do more weight, while 3 times 12 is much more hypertrophic in nature. Research like this one proves that bar velocity transfers to athleticism, but there's an issue. You improve strength specific to the velocity of the sport. A general rule of thumb is that we should never see the grinding portion of a set in our lower body compound lifts. Here's a video example of what you want and what you don't want. And if you train your power while having all your focus on this one thing, then you will get the most gains possible. Rule number 5, keep the goal elastic. If your goal is to sprint faster, then your time needs to be spent doing this one simple thing. If you spend 80% of your time lifting and 20% of your time sprinting, then your goal is completely backwards. Pick your singular goal and train that goal 2 to 3 times per week with proper volume based around the goal. Either you want to sprint faster, you want to jump higher, or you want to improve your change of direction. Now make sure early in all your workouts you do enough volume to cause an adaptation. We do not want your sprint and jump training to be at the end of a workout where fatigue has already accumulated and you don't have 97 to 100% output and intensity to get the adaptation you want. And then choose 1 to 2 exercises per workout to support the goal that you're trying to train in the workout. Then watch this video right here to learn how to train your acceleration like an Olympic level athlete.